Hello everybody, Adam Monk here again from FourFourTwo, back with another Friday show. Now, I know there's an elephant in the room, so let's get it out the way. Yep, I said that Burnley would beat Newcastle and consequently stay up, and consequently Eddie Howe slapped me in the face, so get your laughs in now. So I thought let's turn our attention back to the title race, because that's the only real thing that everyone's talking about now and is going on. So let me shock you, here's why Liverpool, no joking, imagine, yeah, no, it's City and Arsenal's to lose. And obviously I prepped these shows in advance, so I was looking at the fixture list and I saw Fulham versus Manchester City. I thought, you know, okay, mid-table team versus top of the league Man City, and then I saw Man United Arsenal. I thought, well, that's the one to make a video on. But look, it is a categorical fact at this point that Fulham are a better football team than Manchester United. So I weighed it up, and I actually think that there's more chance of Fulham causing an upset against Man City than there is Man United causing one against Arsenal. That is a sad indictment, well, a happy indictment in my opinion, on where Man United are at, but they truly are that bad. So it's Fulham we're talking about this week. Yes, a team who are actually taking after Manchester United by installing a swimming pool in their stadium for next season. Of course, Manchester United swimming pool being the water that's collected on top of the corrugated iron roof and is now leaking into the stands. So hopefully Fulham's will be more watertight, and there's one thing for sure, the defence is going to bloody have to be against Man City.
If you had one shot, one opportunity.
So first things first, in light of what I said about Burnley last week and kind of only half believing it myself, I've decided to change this up and stop being ignorant effectively. It'd be very stupid and naive of me to say that I think that Manchester City won't lose this game. Fulham now are on the beach. Figuratively, of course, they're not based on the south coast or in Liverpool. If you're a fan of Formby, they're actually, well, they're on the river. They're on the riverbank. What? Adam, shut up. But yeah, look, it would be very naive of me, obviously, to suggest that Manchester City won't win this game or shouldn't be expected to win this game when you've got a sample size of Pep Guardiola in title races spanning 15 years back now to when I was in year 6, and also compounded with the fact that Fulham have been flying kites this week. But look, it's a borderline fact that I can't ignore that Pep Guardiola almost always has a tactical edge over every mid-table side or side outside the top 6 in every game he really plays. So for a team to win, A, City have to kind of not be at the races, not 100%, which is usually a one-off and an anomaly, and then B, Fulham are going to have to be at the races as well. And then often what happens when City lose these anomalous games is they're not at the races, the other team are, and then there's an intangible player, a player you can't quite deal with because they're multi-dimensional or unpredictable. Think someone like 𝗕𝗫𝗓𝗓 who plays for Fulham, an intangible player like that who turns the game on its head. And I think there might be a man in the Fulham team who is just that, but it's not 𝗕𝗫𝗓𝗓, it's Rodrigo Muniz. By the way, you don't understand how many takes I just had to do where I was saying Santiago Muniz, then the guy from the Goal film. Honestly, it's a Freudian slip. I've said Rodrigo Muniz. But yes, Rodrigo Muniz, Fulham's new bagsman. He's actually been so prolific in 2024 that this weekend he can become the top scorer in the league. He just needs 17 goals. But no, seriously, he is the top scorer in the Premier League in 2024 with 9 goals. And what's remarkable is he actually scored his first Premier League goal of the season in February. So the turnaround has been remarkable, how quick it's been. But what's most impressive is his variety of goals. So right here you are looking at all of Rodrigo Muniz's shots from open play in 2023-2024, and you can just see an extremely wide array of shots. He's not afraid to shoot from range, from central, or even from really, really far out. And these are the shots that have resulted in goals. You can see they're 4-6 yard box kind of goals, and I'm going to go into these in a minute and actually look at them. And then a couple from in and around the penalty area, a few being spectacular acrobatic efforts, and he's also showcasing that he can score from range as well. But what impresses me most about Rodrigo Muniz is how good he is at feeding off scraps in a goal-scoring sense, but also a creative. So I'm going to show you a few stats here, but I'd actually go as far as saying, just to, you know, preface what I'm about to show you, I think currently he's the best striker in the Premier League at feeding off scraps and sort of nicking in at the front post when no one expects it. But what's most impressive is stuff like this. You see a cross hit into the box, the keeper comes to collect it, but look, he nicks in ahead of the man and converts. It's also not the only time he's done this. Keeper comes to collect again, nicks in front of him and converts. It's a very rare type of goal, and it's quite anomalous that you see a striker scoring so many of these in such a short space of time. And for good measure, here's a third goal of him feeding off scraps as well, this one against Tottenham Hotspur. but it's his ability to hold the ball up as well, which I find extremely impressive. If you look at this clip here, a misjudge of the bounce, and Rodrigo Muniz just capitalises and almost barrages his way through to find 𝗕𝗫𝗃𝗃, which also proved to be a handy little assist. Another example of his hold-up play here, winning a header against 𝗕𝗫𝗃𝗍𝗓 at Old Trafford, and 𝗕𝗫𝗃𝗍𝗓 could have done better with this chance but didn't. In addition to the hold-up play and barraging his way through, he's also very good at timing his runs, and his variety of finishing when he does get in behind is truly second to none. This audacious dink here at Turf Moor, but also the ability as well to hit it hard and low and a cross goal, a typical striker's finish. He really does have it all. And then finally as well, the icing on the cake, this injury time equaliser at Bramall Lane, which was a scissor kick. I mean, basically what it showcases is this man is afraid to do absolutely nothing and has absolutely everything in his locker. I think he's got a massive, massive future ahead of him. And yeah, he's the kind of striker that defenders do not want to face. He's the archetypal handful. So I genuinely think, with us knowing that City are going to control the game and a lot of the ball, Fulham just have to get the ball to this man, and it doesn't actually really matter what way they do it, whether it's a cross or a ball over the top, or whether he's playing with his back to goal as well, because he's a very strong centre forward and very good aerially as well to sort of bring the likes of Willian, Pereira, maybe Iwobi into play as well. They've just got to get the ball to this man, and there's defenders like 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗥𝗔 who sometimes when they've got the backs to the wall, they don't quite like it up against them. I think that's the way that Fulham are going to be able to hurt Manchester City in this game. Anyway, it's the interview part of the video now, and to get some more insight into Fulham and their season and how they might be able to beat Manchester City, I turn my attention to our resident Fulham fan at FourFourTwo, Mr. James Andrew, who is a colleague of mine and of course a Fulham fan. So nonetheless, James, take it away.
I think as long as Marco Silva's there, there's a very good chance of progression. I think he's a very, very good manager. I think the owners have to invest, because I think if you look at the squad, it is an aging squad. There are a lot of sort of players over 30. You know, Willian's been one of our best performers in the last couple of seasons, and you know he's not, you know, he's the wrong side of 35. So you know he's not going to go on forever. And you know we've got a lot of players over 30, so we need to bring in some younger players. Now we've got a decent academy. We've got some decent players out on loan. It'll be a mix of hopefully bringing in some players from outside the club in the transfer window, and also trying to sort of blood in some of those youngsters. You know, we've got the likes of Jay Stansfield, who's been at Birmingham this season, and I know they got relegated, but he cleaned the board at their end of season awards, winning all 5 club awards. We've got Luke Harris at Exeter, who's been doing well. So there are young players out there, and it's just a case of sort of bedding them in over the next season or so.
Yeah, and focusing on the game, obviously Fulham are playing my team, Manchester City.
Yes.
And you said, was it yesterday, you said that on thebeach.com? Is that what you said, Jane?
It was a phrase I heard at at the 𝗘𝗫𝗃 Community Stadium. Where I was on Saturday. Yeah, I mean, I don't particularly like that phrase, but yeah, I mean, it's they haven't had much to play for. They confirmed their Premier League status a couple of weeks ago. And the last 2 games against Crystal Palace and Brentford have been 2 draws. We were the second best team against Crystal Palace, not great at all, and did well to come away with a point. And actually a pretty good point if you look at their recent results. And then we were the better team against Brentford, but we just couldn't really find a way through, and a bit wasteful with the sort of chances. So, yeah, there's nothing riding on it. But, you know, we've got 2 games to go, and, you know, big games at both ends of the table. We've got Manchester City, as you say, on Saturday, and Luton away on the final day of the season. So, you know, I'm sure Luton and Manchester City will hope that we're on the beach, but I'm sure the likes of, you know, Arsenal and Nottingham Forest will hope that, you know, Fulham can turn up and do something.
Well, that's the thing, because like, as a City fan, I'm more concerned about this game than Tottenham away. I think given the context of the fixture and the fact that Spurs will not want Arsenal to win the league, I think they'll roll over. Whereas I think Fulham, I remember last season actually, City went to the Cottage, and I think it was in April, so slightly further back in the season, but you gave us a good game. I think we won 2-1 narrowly. I think that Carlos Vinicius might have scored Fulham's goal in that game. Yeah. But, you know, I think Marco Silva has a little bit of a blueprint on how to beat big teams. I think he did it against Arsenal earlier this season. He gave City 2 hard games last season at the Etihad as well, which we narrowly won. So I don't think it's entirely impossible that an upset could be caused here. I think it's more likely than at White Hart Lane next week.
Yes, I mean, look, I certainly wouldn't rule it out. I think of all the big teams, we've shown less against City in recent seasons, and also we played City a lot when we were in the Championship in cup games and stuff, and we regularly get turned over quite heavily. I mean, earlier the season, I think the score was 5-1 at the Etihad. I still feel slightly unjust about that because
that one goal,
the goal before half time, had Fulham gone in on level terms, I don't know. I mean, I think City was still a 1, but it did feel a bit unjust, especially as 𝗕𝗏 came out a couple of weeks later and said it should have been ruled out. I just think City, when they need to, can just turn it on. I'd love to think that we can cause an upset, and it'd be nice, for any neutrals out there that want an exciting end to the title race, and it's not a procession for City. But I'm not sure. I haven't seen anything from Fulham in recent weeks to think that they can really upset City that much this weekend.
Well, I have, and that's why I'm doing the video on it. And that man, that man is Santiago Muniz, who, of course, I believe is a
Rodrigo Muniz, not
Rodrigo.
Santiago played for Newcastle and Real Madrid in the goal films.
In the goal film, I don't know. Yeah, I've just realised that. I've done that Freudian slip in the recording as well. Rodrigo, that's right. So I believe he's the top scorer in the Premier League in 2024. He's been banging them in, scored his first Premier League goal in February as well for Fulham. And he scores his goals in all different kind of ways. There's been some acrobatic volleys, deft movements at the far post. He seems to be the whole package, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, what I'd say is his goals have all been excellent, and as you said, they've all been different. He's an interesting one. He signed a couple of years ago when Fulham were in the Championship for about £5 million. Brought him over from Brazil, young player. He was, he's still young now, but he was very young then. Played a sort of understudy role to 𝗕𝗏𝗧𝗥𝗔-𝗧𝗜𝗠, scored a couple of goals in the Championship, did okay. And then last season, when Fulham were promoted, he was sort of sent out on loan to Middlesbrough. Didn't really get that much opportunities at Middlesbrough, especially when they changed their manager and 𝗘𝗏𝗧𝗥𝗔 came in. I don't think, which is fine. It's fair enough. He started him that often. And then this season, he again, when ಮಿtrović left and Raúl Jiménez had come in, and it just felt that, he wasn't really going to get a chance at the time as well. We also had Carlos Vinicius. And he wasn't really getting much of a chance in the first half of the season. A few appearances here and there off the bench, and then it took January that Fulham went and signed 𝗕𝗏𝗧𝗥𝗏𝗧 from Chelsea, and then suddenly he sparked into action, and he was given a start, and he started scoring. He scored his first goal against Burnley, and he's been brilliant. And I'd love him to get one more goal this season, at least one more goal this season, to get to double figures. Because to get to 10 goals in a Premier League season is no mean feat, and to have done that having not scored your first goal till February is quite an achievement. But yeah, he's looked really, really good since February, since he's really come into the team and sort of started. And his goals have, as you mentioned, all been a bit different. There's a bit of everything in there. There's a goal that I really liked that gets overlooked quite a lot because Fulham lost the game. It was a goal against Aston Villa. He scored where he snuck in between the defender and the goalkeeper just to tap it in. And I definitely didn't see that. It was at the end of the ground I was at, and I didn't see that opportunity sort of presenting itself, and he just managed to sort of make something out of nothing. You mentioned acrobatic effort in stoppage time up at Bramall Lane to sort of save a 3-3 draw. And yeah, he's been a revelation, and I think you'll find that Fulham fans are really, really pleased that he's doing well, because it's nice to see a young player who's struggled maybe a little bit, adapting in this country to, finally sort of making a name for himself. And I think he won Player of the Month in March, only the third Fulham player to win the Premier League Player of the Month after Louis Saha and Mark Schwarzer. So that's some achievement as well. So yeah, you never know. He could cause some damage. And I expect him to start at the weekend. He started against Brentford last weekend, and he came off, and actually the best chance of the game fell to the person who replaced him, Raúl Jiménez, who blasted over from close range, which was quite disappointing, to say the least. But yeah, you never know. I just think, I mean, it might be the surprise aspect for City that they won't know too much about him.
Yeah, like not being able to read him. But one player that I think is Fulham's best player and he's readable, but sometimes impossible to stop, is 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏. I think he's one of the best DMs in world football. But I guess a wider question, not necessarily about the City game, but it almost seems like it's gone a bit quiet on the front of him leaving the club. Perhaps I'm wrong, and you might correct me on that. But what do you think the future holds for 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏 now at Fulham?
I think this summer's going to be really interesting with 𝗘𝗫𝗏. You know, it's no secret he was given permission to go to Bayern Munich, and the deal just ran out of time. It didn't get across the line, but he was in Munich. He'd done a medical, and the deal collapsed in the last minute. And came back to Fulham, and he was offered a new deal, and he signed it. So he has signed a new deal since that deal collapsed. He's a year older now, obviously, so he'll be 29 at the start of next season. And I just wonder whether or not, you know, if you're Bayern Munich or you know, any of the other top teams that are sort of looking at him, are you thinking 29? Is that, you know, is that a little bit too old, or, you know, could we get more value for money if we go for someone younger? I still think he could do a job at a top team. You know, I hate to say this, I think you know, a Liverpool could easily come in for him in the summer. I think in terms of his impact this season, I would say he's not been as good as last season for Fulham, but that's in no way a slight. That's just a very high bar that he set himself. Yeah. He's still the top tackling midfielder, I think, in the whole of Europe, and he had that last season as well. He does pick up a lot of yellow cards. He's on 13, I believe, this season, so he's already picked up a number of bans for his accumulation of yellow cards. But yeah, it'll be really, really interesting to see what happens. It really wouldn't surprise me if a team like Liverpool came in for him and paid the money, but at the same time, it also wouldn't surprise me come September the 2nd if he was still a Fulham player next season. Finally then, score prediction. We always ask it. You can go with your head or your heart. It depends, but you decide. Man City, Fulham. Well, I mean, I've talked Fulham down for this whole sort of chat, but I'm going to go with my heart. And I think just for the title race, it'd be nice to see. So I'm going to say 2-1 to Fulham. Oh, right. Okay. Interesting. But my head probably says something closer to 3-1 Man City. Yeah, that's what I kind of think. But I think this is the game. I do think, like, as a City fan, if City are to drop points, it is going to be this one. So that's why. And you know what? I could have picked. What made me laugh is I was looking this week at the fixtures, and I looked at Arsenal, Man United, and I thought the disparity between the two teams is bigger there than it is Fulham, Man City. That's how bad Man United are right now. So I've chosen this game to cover because Man United are just that pointless to talk about right now. So yeah, we shall see. But James, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate that, mate. No problem at all. Thank you very much, James. Yes, a 2-1 Fulham win, which will be a turn-up for the books, and I think Arsenal really need it. I know it's not technically the last chance saloon, but I think it's the most likely game that City are going to lose at this point, given the fact that Spurs won't really want Arsenal to win the league, and by that I mean the Tottenham fans. I think that energy in the ground will feed onto the pitch a bit, and I think City, especially the way Tottenham are defending at the moment, will probably wipe the floor with Spurs. We shall see. So I think this is the real last tricky kind of banana skin game, you might say, for Manchester City. So I think Arsenal could do with an upset. Don't forget to subscribe though, guys. I've been Adam Monk. Have a lovely penultimate weekend of the Premier League season. Enjoy the football. I'll see you next week. Goodbye.